He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey.
Vice President Joe Biden taking aim at Republican nominee Donald Trump during night 3 of the Democrat convention, saying Mr. Trump doesn't have a clue about the middle class. Let's discuss that contention with a Democrat, a friend of this program who is showing up live from the Democratic convention. She's the former communication director for the Gore-Lieberman campaign back in 2000, Joy Howell, currently a managing partner for Cambridge Strategic Partners, and she joins us live from the Democratic convention. Joy, I saw over your shoulder my old friend Jennifer Granholm, former governor of Michigan, was delivering an address. I don't know if she was quite as enthusiastic tonight as she was 4 years ago for Barack Obama, but her remarks aside, I'm just really curious from your perspective, Joy. Vice President Biden, a lot of people thought he was going to run. He decided not to. Was that his last hurrah last night? And was he effective making the case against Donald Trump?
I think it was unfortunate that he couldn't run in some ways. It was just a bad timing issue, I think, for the vice president. But I think he did an excellent job last night. He made the case that Mr. Trump simply is not really a legitimate advocate for the middle class.
Well, how so? Is it just thematically? I mean, you're a communications director, and is it just the old stereotype coming through that those of us who are Republicans, we really don't care about poor people, we really don't care about the working class? Was it a reinforcement of that stereotype?
No, I don't look at it that way. I think that Mr. Trump is a wolf in sheep's clothing. There's nothing about him that's populist except his rhetoric. He's a billionaire. He was born with a little silver foot in his mouth, as Ann Richards might say.
Well, at least you credited the late great Ann Richards. You didn't lift the line, Joy, so we appreciate that. Listen.
Well, I worked for Ann Richards.
Well, good. So maybe you did help come up with that
of
line, huh? Listen, there was a gentleman on our program last night, J.D. Vance. He's written a book entitled Hillbilly Elegy, and he writes about rural voters, poor voters, folks trying to grab the next rung of the economic ladder. And he told us last night he's really not surprised about the burgeoning blue-collar support for Donald Trump. Let's look and listen to what he had to say.
If you think about the way that the elites talk about politics, it's just not the way that a lot of folks back home, from my home, talk about politics. And it's not surprising that they're attracted to somebody who actually speaks like them and is relatable to them.
So JD was making the case that Donald Trump struck that chord, but you're telling us last night Joe Biden was able to recapture that middle ground with the middle class.
I think there's no question that Trump's Make America Great Again slogan is really a code for let me give you back the American dream. And I think many people in America, wages have been stagnant. They're about where they were 20 years ago, even though unemployment is below 5%. People feel a sense of desperation. They just went through the Great Recession. They've lost a lot of savings. Some of them lost their homes. They lost their retirement incomes. They lost the chance to send their kids to college. I think this election is all about that incredible frustration, and Mr. Trump has tapped into that.
Well, let's go to the phones if we can right now. And Joy, we're going to go out to my old stomping grounds in Arizona. From Black Canyon City, Arizona, Gerald joins us on the phone. Hiya, Gerald. Welcome to Newsmax Prime.
Thanks, JD. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Democrats are, they can never own up to anything that's their fault. This deal with the Russians, they brought it up that the Russians were helping Trump to begin with. All Trump was doing is asking them, if you have them, give them to us so we know the truth.
Well, let's get Joy's take on that, because Joy is a quite a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. This whole thing, and especially as a communications consultant, Joy, the past couple of days, and look, I can understand the WikiLeaks emails embarrass the Democrat National Committee. So you say, hey, wait a minute. No, it's the Russians. The Russians are to blame, and try to change the focus. And then with Trump's sarcastic remark yesterday, the suggestion that Trump is irresponsible. In your opinion, is your party playing the issue the right way?
Even the Wall Street Journal today is calling Trump to task for asking a foreign government, an adversary, to hack into emails in this country. I mean, it was not sarcastic. If you watched the news coverage, if you watched his actual press conference, he was quite serious about it. It's a reflexive action on his part. Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, condemned it.
Well, of course, but here's what's going on. And look, let's understand something here, and let me pull the curtain back on the Republican Party, and it really mirrors the Democrat Party right now, because you've got the Washington establishment on one side and the Open Borders gang, and they're typified by the Wall Street Journal, and of course they're going to take Trump to task, as would Paul Ryan. But there could be a method to the madness, Joy, to this degree. Donald Trump disrupted the news cycle for Democrats. Yesterday was supposed to be Hillary's humanity and how she deserves the nomination. That was not completely off the front page. And I don't know that it's really going to hurt Trump. I imagine you have a different opinion on that.
I would just say I think what he said yesterday was a gift to Democrats and to responsible Republicans everywhere. How can you possibly think that he could be a serious commander-in-chief when he asked a foreign adversary to hack into U.S. emails?
Well, we might counter, Joy. How can you expect Mrs. Clinton to be a serious commander-in-chief when she had all those emails on her personal server? And who knows who they ended up with. Tell you what, let's go back to the phones and hear from some other viewers at 1-877-Newsmax. Let's go to Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee, and welcome John to the program. Hi, John.
Hey, JD. I appreciate you taking my call once again, buddy.
You bet.
I got a couple quick things I want to state. To the lady that you're currently speaking with now, yes, I did watch the meeting that he had when he did say that statement. Anyone with have a brain would know that that was tongue-in-cheek humor, and I am a 100% disabled veteran, so I have served, in the military. So that was, number one, that was just a tongue-in-cheek comment. And as you can tell, I got a little bit of a hillbilly accent. Down here in Tennessee, there's not a whole lot of people that's voting Democrat down here in the Music City as well as the state of Tennessee that I know of. The third thing is that I cannot believe that Harry Reid can sit up there and say to deliberately mislead a presidential candidate by giving him the false information, where it makes the Democratic Party look good, and it just gives them some kind of ammunition to fire back at Donald Trump with. Thanks for your time, JD.
Well, thanks for your call, John. And obviously, Joy, John went through a litany of concerns, and we can address those. But in the 2 minutes that remain, I think it's important to take advantage of your expertise, because Hillary Clinton makes the big speech tonight, the acceptance speech. If you were advising her on what to say in the 2 minutes that remain, Joy, what advice would you have for Secretary Clinton?
I would advise her to listen to the disillusionment in the American electorate, Republicans, Independents, Democrats alike, to tell us exactly how she can help bring back the American dream. I'd ask her to challenge Mr. Trump again and again to release his tax returns so that we know exactly where his wealth is coming from and what credibility he has as a businessman. We've heard a lot here at this convention about him not paying workers, about contractors going bankrupt in Atlantic City. I would ask, okay, let's look at what's the meat on the bones. What is he actually going to do to bring back the American dream? People are upset, they're disillusioned, they want leadership that can do that and offer them hope of doing that. I'd say to Mrs. Clinton, let's have some concrete policies. I believe she has laid some out, but I would ask her to communicate those with great clarity.
And Joy Howell, amidst the cacophony there in Convention Hall, you have offered your ideas and opinions with great clarity, as befits a communications director in a presidential campaign, as you were for Al Gore and Joe Lieberman back in the year 2000. As always, Joy, we very much appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us on such an important night, the final night of the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia.
Thank you, JD. It was always a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks again. Now, when we come back, going to pay a little more attention to Mrs. Clinton's running mate, former Governor Tim Kaine, who hopes to be the next Vice President of the United States. How do Virginians view him? We'll talk about that with Colonel Patrick Murray when we come back.